Hey everybody, this is Perch, and this is a comics channel, but we're going to talk about mostly things in the tech industry, but you'll see how it relates to comics. I promise this won't be a complete waste of your time. In fact, I suspect many of you will find this fascinating. So, our world has been gripped with a sudden interest, although that may be a way too generous a word, in politics. And you see this invading kind of everywhere. Recently, or during the last election, the CEO of Expensify, which is a piece of software that is used to submit expense reports and everything else, basically sent a mail out to every single one of the customers who used Expensify, every company, every customer, basically saying you have to vote for Joe Biden because Trump is a monster. This came from the CEO through not the employees, although they got it too, but the customers. And it was a weird moment because we really haven't seen corporations do things like that. And of course, this move was met with, half the people saying this is nightmarish, and half the people saying this is this is good activism and good on that CEO. Amazingly, it seemed to break down based on who you were voting for, whether you liked it or not. I had a friend who was really excited about that. It was like, this is great that this is finally happening. I'm like, okay, so you're prepared for, say, some other piece of software you use, Facebook. You're prepared for those guys, the head of Facebook, to send you a mail saying, vote for Trump. And they're like, no, I would drop Facebook immediately. It's like, okay, well, sounds great. Anyway, politics is everywhere, and suddenly everybody has a big interest in it. And I'm just waiting for kind of our, better movies, better books. Like, is it time for J.K. Rowling to come back and do another Harry Potter series? Obviously, she can't because she's a bigot, is what everybody says. So we've kind of ruined that one. But is this what happens when the MCU starts to die down? Everybody turns to politics, and that's where we're at now. Everybody's got an interest. Regardless, one company doesn't think so. So Basecamp, what is Basecamp? It's software for program and project management. It's by a company, 37 Signals, I believe, is the company that produces that. They've written a number of books, guys on Twitter, and they basically have if I'm describing it to a layperson, it's like an open source, kind of customize what you want, document management, repository, project management kind of suite that you can get in and use relatively inexpensively or pay more for more features. And there you have it. Basecamp's been around for a while, and that company has been seen as innovators. Basically, the head of Basecamp, David Freed, sends out a company mail, or they put a blog up, and he basically makes a statement, and then you'll see why I'm doing all this on a comics channel in just a moment. But companies change, and we've made some internal changes. We collectively, we feel like this is a full version change, very, very, very techy, but says that, they're talking about company culture and what kind of company they want to be. And, and there's a paragraph here which kind of indicates what's to come. And it says the same is true, in the product world. Not all changes are enjoyed by all customers. Some changes are immediately appreciated. Some changes take time to steep, settle in, get acquainted with. And to some, changes never feel quite right. They may even be deal breakers. The same is true in changing your company, except to customers or their employees. And when you get to a certain count, customers or employees both, there's no pleasing everyone. You can't. There are too many unique perspectives, experiences, and individuals. It's an interesting word. So what are these changes he outlines? Well, here's the first one. No more societal and political discussions on our company Basecamp account. Today's social and political waters are especially choppy. Sensitives are at 11, and every discussion remotely related to politics, advocacy, or society at large quickly spins away from pleasant. You shouldn't have to wonder if staying out of it means you're complicit or wading into it means you're a target. These are difficult enough waters to navigate in life, but significantly more so at work. It's become too much. It's a major distraction. It saps our energy. It redirects our dialogue toward dark places. It's not healthy. It hasn't served us well, and we're done with it on our company Basecamp account where work happens. People can take the conversations with willing coworkers to Signal, WhatsApp, or even a personal Basecamp account, but it can't happen where the work happens anymore. Now, he goes on because he announces this, and Twitter lost their shit. And there's some other things that they also like. They're not, one of the things I've worked in tech plenty, and I know people know this. They're talking about how we're not going to have benefits that are paternalistic, they call it. Basically, fitness benefits, wellness allowances, farmers market shares, etc. These kinds of things like that. Instead, they're just going to give you the money and say you figure it out. They're not going to route it through the company. By the way, every company I've worked for always goes through this period where the employees all want these kinds of benefits, and eventually they just want the money and they want to stop. They want to stop having the company kind of decide this stuff for them, which makes sense if you think about it. But anyway, so because of the angry rage that went on Twitter, and there was rage, people just, how dare you tell me what I can and can't talk about at work? He then goes on to basically type more about it and kind of restate his position. And in it, he restates multiple times that you're more than welcome to talk as much as you want on Twitter, on personal accounts, on all kinds of things, but on the company communication, company chat, we don't want you to do this. And in addition, then he went further to say Basecamp as a company is no longer going to weigh in publicly on societal political affairs outside of those that directly connect to the business. Again, everyone can individually weigh in as much or as little as they want, but we're done with posts that present Basecamp's stance on such issues. Basically, that he's saying that the company is not going to get into any kind of political activism. They're going to leave that to the employees, and they're going to separate the company from this stuff. And then he goes on to say, unsurprisingly, parts of Twitter is very disappointed in us, and the search for the tweet to serve as a stake for disappointment is in full swing. Several contenders have included my tweets about how I find it okay for leaders and employees to be political on Twitter. I still do and still will be, just not on Twitter, but on this blog as well. These are my personal spaces. Everyone at Basecamp has been, as you can read from the snippet above, actively encouraged to do the same. Bring all your political advocacy to whatever personal spaces you have, Twitter, Facebook, your local group, all of it. Just don't bring it into the internal communication platforms we use for work, and by extension, our company account is not going to be weighing into this stuff. Okay, so as you could probably imagine, how does this relate to comics? Well, let me give a prediction that people won't like, or they will disagree with, or they will throw tantrums about, but I think is inevitable. Almost every company is going to look like this, like what Basecamp has done, within 5 years. We can pretend it won't happen, but it's going to happen. What's really people have been waiting for is for a major company, particularly a major tech progressive company, and the Basecamp people are very progressive, forward people. They've been waiting for somebody to stand up and take the arrows and take this stance. Now a bunch of people are going to follow. Why? Well, actually for the reasons why David says so. That and this is the key thing, that you shouldn't have to wonder if staying out of it means you're complicit or stepping into it means you're a target. That's the sentence that's going to ultimately carry the day. And so in comics, we have certainly had a lot of conversation over the last several years about, creators getting active on social media and politically and everything else. And we've seen this blurring of the line between what is a personal position and what is a company position. And what we're going to see is the companies are going to retreat from it. Employees, people are still going to give personal opinions on social media, and that's all going to happen. But this interesting thing is going to happen as companies start to take steps back away from it. Employees and individuals are too, not because they're scared to say anything, but because, kind of like pouring gas on the fire, when there's less oxygen in the room, the fire can't burn as much. And so you're going to see people slowly step away. Now, comics is going to be very late in the game to do that with, because comics is basically inhabited by a ton of freelancers and individual contributors, people who are not employees, and it's a creative field. So they're always going to be a little bit more active. But what is going to happen is a turning down the volume of politics, particularly coming from companies. A number of companies have tried political stances, whether it's Gillette or My Pillow, or you can go both sides, right and left, doing this kind of stuff. It typically hasn't benefited anyone, right wing or left wing. Nobody's really done great from all this. And at the end of the day, this stance, the stance of, it's your personal, do it on your personal time, and we're gonna distance it from it, is a shift. It is a shift from kind of the mentality that had grown up over the last few years. And it's a shift for what Twitter has been screaming about. There's a lot of activists on Twitter who have basically said the opposite of what David's here, which is saying you can't be silent. If you are silent, you are complicit. It's kind of what they're attacking right here. You shouldn't have to wonder if staying out of it means you're complicit. You shouldn't have to have that stress or that dynamic on your life. The thing that isn't said here is that we don't want to have to continue to pay people to do this kind of nonsense on company time. Now, it's not said out loud, but it's there. You could read between the lines. We don't want to be drug into this. We don't want to pay for it. We don't want to have to manage it and deal with it and have the HR headaches from it. We're not going to get involved. I'm 100% positive we're going to get some stories because CNN or Fox News or somebody who loves clickbait kind of attention on this stuff is going to find the employee who quits in protest over this new stance and interview them and talk about how the company's a monster and everything else, and that will be in the news cycle probably by the time this video is posted. But in the end, this is an interesting first step. It's something to watch and to take a look at. So if you want to check this blog out for yourself, frankly, if you just put in Basecamp into Google and search in the news, you'll see a million articles on this. But do yourself a favor and go to the source, and the source being this kind of Jason Fried's blog. So you can find him on Twitter, Jason Fried. You can also just, again, if you search on Google and you search changes in Basecamp or Basecamp, you'll find a number of news articles. Don't spoil it for you. Don't read whatever spin, right wing or left wing, the article's trying to pitch to you, and just get to the point where they link to his blog and then read it for yourself. A bunch of interesting things there. It is, it's an interesting stake in the ground. And invariably, aspects of this are going to roll out to comics. I know there's a number of people who work at Marvel who listen to this. Marvel, your parent company is Disney. Disney absolutely is allergic to these conversations from an HR perspective. I know that there's a whole video gold mine in Disney woke topics and whatever else, but that is a different thing from what their employees are doing, and I'll put money down. Please don't go in the comments. I'm speculating, but I'll be willing to bet that this same stance within 5 years is going to be adopted many more places, including the two parent companies of the two largest comic companies. So anyway, my little prediction. Let me know your thoughts below. Would you work for a company that did this, or is this infringing on your rights? Let me know. It's the Twitter responses are hostile and angry and fierce, and that is it is telling, because I think other people sense the same thing I do, that this slowly clamping down on some of this stuff equals an end to this boutique business of outrage activism. The more this stuff goes away, the more that power goes away, and so I think you're going to see some people just screaming as if this is genocide of an idea. I mean, one of the comments, this is racist. What was that? Try being a black person. This is racism. This is bigotry. This is a nightmare dystopia. Interesting. Like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts below, and thanks for listening.